How can a country that doesn't raise many cows become the leather capital of the world? How can the Italians transform cowhide, a humble byproduct, into a premium material that transcends all limits of time, technique, and emotion? Could it be that the story doesn't lie in cattle farming, but in how the leather is tanned? Let's embark on a journey where beauty doesn't begin with perfection, but with how humans face what seems to be discarded. Have you ever wondered, where does that Italian leather bag you love come from? Not the magnificent showroom in Milan, not even the famous artisan workshop in Florence, but from a very different place, industrial slaughterhouses, where tens of thousands of cows are put through the production line every day. Sounds cold? But that's the truth few people talk about. Every year, Europe processes over 20 million cows, and most of their hides are not thrown away, but are transferred to large tanning centers, of which Italy is the heart of this industry. Here, a thick, rough hide will undergo a transformation process lasting months to become a soft, oil-scented material, valued at thousands of euros under the name vera pelle, real leather. But the point isn't the numbers, it's the silence. Because very few people know that cowhide is actually a byproduct of the meat industry, and it is the Italian tanning industry that has turned the dirtiest thing into the most luxurious material. No one raises cows for their leather, and no one slaughters cows just for their leather. In the food industry, cowhide is simply what's left, a byproduct that is cut off, rolled up, numbered, and sent away. So what really happens between the two ends of this value chain? How can an industrial carcass create a product considered an icon of Italy? Technology, microorganisms, time, or a bit of magic? We will step into the land where chemicals and art intersect, where leather is not just tanned, but where stories are told, and where every handbag, every pair of shoes, every leather jacket can start from a silent dissection. Before becoming a tangible material, the hide must undergo a silent ritual, separating itself from the memory of life. In the tanneries of Italy, the first stage is always cleaning. Cowhides are soaked in large water tanks to remove salt, soften, and wash away impurities. But the next step is truly important: liming and dehairing. The hides are soaked in a solution of lime, sulfide, and enzymes to expand the fiber structure, remove the hair, epidermis, and residual fat. Craftsmen call this process peeling away the surface memory, because after this stage, the leather looks completely different: white, flabby, indeterminate, with no trace of its former living state. Sounds simple, but just a few hours off, the leather can disintegrate or smell foul. And the interesting thing is that many longtime Italian tanners don't use sensors, but their hands. They gently touch the surface of the leather, press into the fibers, and know exactly how much longer until it's done. In Santa Croce Sull'Arno, a small town in Tuscany with an area of less than 20 square kilometers, more than 250 tanneries operate every day. This is not just a production center, but also the cradle of a family tradition, where many tanneries have existed for over 3 generations. There, the craft is not written down, but felt, learned by hand, and stored in memory. Some villages even have water sorcerers, who are responsible for choosing the underground spring water to use for each batch of leather. They believe that the water must still be alive, flowing through rocks, carrying energy, so that the leather will have a spirit after tanning. For them, the smell of good leather cannot be concocted. It starts from the water source. That's also why the water for soaking the hides cannot be arbitrary. Many tanneries only use natural groundwater, with low mineral content, soft, and seasonally stable. Some tanning families even keep their soaking water recipes as a secret passed down through generations. Cleaning sounds like forgetting. But here, cleaning is to preserve what is most important to remember. Can you believe it? There are hides soaked in vats for over 60 days, just to absorb something that the craftsman cannot put into words. Soaking the hide, tanning the hide, making it immortal. That is the strangest stage in the journey, when the hide, once living, once breathing, needs to undergo a kind of rebirth, not to return, but to live longer, for dozens more years, in a new form. In Italy, they don't just tan leather with simple chemicals. Since the Middle Ages, Italians have known how to use vegetable tanning, a technique of soaking hides in natural extracts. The leather is soaked in finely ground herbs, taken from oak bark, chestnut, or mimosa. These tannins gradually penetrate each fiber of collagen, fixing the leather's structure in a durable way. Each workshop has a formula, each family has a secret, and each soaking is different. Because time, temperature, mineral content in the water, even the humidity in the wind, all affect the final result. You can step into a traditional tannery, where the light is dim, wooden soaking vats stand crisscrossed like a maze, and the air always carries a faint, musty scent of damp earth and herbs. There, people don't look at the clock. They look at the color of the water, feel the swelling of the leather, and wait silently. Some modern workshops use biological enzymes and controlled bacteria to shorten the tanning time without sacrificing quality. But surprisingly, the feel of the hand is still an irreplaceable step. Italian artisans can touch the leather and know that it is done. A skill that cannot be passed on through a formula, only learned over years. And it is also during this stage that secrets begin to take shape. Some long-established tanning families in Tuscany keep a tanning water recipe, a mixture of spring water, herbs, acidity, and a few things no one is willing to reveal. These secrets are not written down, not shared, only passed on to the successor, usually when they are quiet enough to listen. The leather may have been tanned, but its personality, the softness, the scent, the way light falls on its surface, cannot be replicated by any factory. And it is also here that the leather begins to have its own voice, of the land, of the hands, and of something nameless. After being tanned, the hide is still too thick to use. This is when it enters the splitting stage, one of the steps that requires almost absolute precision. Cowhide can be 5 to 8 millimeters thick, while the material used for leather shoes, handbags, or jackets only needs to be 1.2 to 2.0 millimeters. The remainder, called split leather, can be used for lower-grade products or as lining. But this process is not simply thinning. It requires knowledge of the fiber structure, grain direction, and natural elasticity of each hide, factors that cannot be seen with the naked eye. In some traditional tanneries in Italy, the craftsman is still the one who directly performs the leather splitting operation, even though modern machinery can do it faster. The reason? For high-end leathers like calfskin or horsehide, only the human hand can feel where to stop, which leather fibers need to be preserved. Some artisans compare this stage to dissecting memory. They don't cut, but open the leather layer by layer, like peeling something that once lived, once felt, once stretched under the sun. And it is also during this stage that an interesting thing happens. Many workshops still silently mark each hide by hand, with a light notch, a hidden dye mark, or a deliberate cut. That is the craftsman's underground signature. To know who processed that hide, which batch it belonged to, and what it was intended for. These symbols do not appear on the final product, but they exist silently as part of the traditional crafts classification system, existing for decades. Here, leather is not just cut to fit, it is opened up to begin shaping its identity. Why is it that two pieces of leather from the same origin, using the same process, never look the same after dyeing? Could it be that leather, like humans, remembers something within its fibers, so that when it encounters color, it chooses its own way to react? In the tanneries of Italy, dyeing is not simply a beautification stage. It is a process where the craftsman infuses the material with personal feeling, sometimes to an almost instinctive degree. There are hides that are hand-dyed on each side, layer by layer, using brushes, coarse cloth, even the palms of hands. Each dyeing is a dialogue between the person and the material, between intention and the natural texture of the leather. No one can completely control the color, because the leather itself, with varying absorption depending on the area, will decide which shade it wants to retain. Some modern workshops use drum dyeing machines, allowing the color to penetrate deeply, evenly, and controllably. But for high-end artisanal leathers, people still choose the old method, even though it takes time, even though it's never the same. And from then on, each piece of leather has its own identity. Some gleam with a deep amber like aged wine. Some are reddish-brown like sun-baked earth in the dry season. There are colors no one can name, only know that they belong to Italy. The craftsman doesn't mix colors according to a code chart. They mix by feeling, using the early morning light, with experience from winters that were too humid or summers that were too hot. They say, the most beautiful leather color is never the color you expect. It's the color the leather chooses to keep. And here, there's an interesting thing. There are hides that are kept because the dyeing failed. But it is that very failure that creates the uniqueness, the thing that makes Italian leather most precious. Because a beautiful dye is not just a mixture, it is the craftsman's silent declaration about time, emotion, and even the acceptance of imperfection. And that is why the craftsman in Arzignano has a very old but very true saying, "I don't choose the color. The leather chose it for me." Have you ever tried holding a soft piece of leather to your ear and imagining what it's whispering? After being tanned and dyed, the leather is still not ready. It is stiff, rough, stretched taut as if defending itself. And that is when the final important step takes place, softening, shaping, finishing, so that the leather knows how to breathe, knows how to tell stories. In Italy, this stage is not just technique, it is art. Some workshops use antique machines that are over 50 years old, with leather rollers that turn like the wrinkles of time to soothe the leather surface. The hide is put through dozens of stretches, gentle pats, heated and then cooled, just to regain the soft feel of being touched for the first time. The craftsman touches every corner, checks the softness, the resilience, the natural grain. Not to correct, but to listen. What does the leather want to retain? Some artisan workshops also polish the leather with beeswax, horse fat, or thickened linseed oil, which not only creates shine but also locks emotions onto the surface. The leather can then be embossed with patterns, stamped with logos, cut into shapes, but every operation must follow the individual rhythm of each hide, like when you gently turn the pages of an old book, not daring to break the spine. And what few people know, there are hides that don't meet the standards for color or grain, that are kept to make limited editions, because that very imperfection is unique. In Italy, people don't make leather perfect, they just help it become as authentic as possible. When you hold an Italian leather bag, do you really know what you are holding? An accessory, a luxury item? Or is it the trace of a silent journey that few have ever seen? The leather has gone through everything: soaking, splitting, tanning, dyeing, softening. But only when it enters the final stage is it named for its new role, to become an object carrying function, emotion, and a story. No two leather bags are exactly the same. They may be the same model, the same material, the same workshop, but each piece of leather retains a crease, an area of different color, a subtle scent that only appears in the early morning sun. In the world of Italian leather, the product is not just a product. It is the crystallization of time, climate, the mood of the maker, and countless unnamed decisions throughout the process. When an inanimate object carries so many layers within it, people no longer call it leather. They call it a living symbol. Could it be that the most beautiful materials are not created, but nurtured by time and respect? Are you impressed with this meaningful journey? Follow the channel to discover many other unique things. Thank you, and see you again.